I think the reason my list is so much shorter too is because I'm looking at just like the targets that
You
have
guys
been
are linked
connected
with?
to Arsenal. Yeah, that we're linked with, and then two because
Because y'all are only ever linked to like three players every summer.
no, I mean we get linked to a lot of players. It's true though, like Liverpool kind of moves in silence, kind of shit, and
You did.
Arsenal aren't like a super like tightly run club. Like there's leaks all the time. Like I
Yeah.
knew Thomas Partey
Which
was
I
going to
hate.
Arsenal, like off rip, dude. I just knew it. I just knew it, and then
just
it
based
wasn't
on
happening.
yeah,
I
just
won't
based off
lie,
how you
like
guys were moving and shit.
right, and I
Uh,
won't lie, like they had me worried, like because we went through that whole window. I thought Party was gonna be done early, and it
yeah.
wasn't. And then they did it on deadline day, at the last minute, typical, right? But I don't know. I just always knew that he wanted to go there. There was always reports coming out that the club wanted to get him, and they were cheaping out about his buyout clause. Whatever. So it's one because yeah, there's links. Two, like we said, there's so many young players that I want to give opportunities to, right?
Yeah.
And so I know Guendouzi's probably going to get moved this summer, but I want Guendouzi to be in that mix with Basuma, with Awar, with Party, with with so you have like four people for two spots, like it'd be beautiful. But especially when I look at the forwards, right?
Mhm.
If there's one thing Arsenal have, it's attacking players,
That's a
and that
fact.
might not seem evident now this last season because they struggle to score goals. But like I said, I think that's because of the midfield and how we prioritize defense this year.
Yep.
With a bomb, if we sell Lacazette,
Mhm.
one guy I would love to see us bring in is a guy we've been linked to for 2 summers now. Is Edouard from Celtic. A very like
Hudson
physical.
Edward.
Yeah,
Ooh,
he's
big boy.
big boy, right? Physical, very physical, strong, but also a really good finisher. At least from
Yeah.
what I've seen,
Yeah.
very clinical. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that to especially like 22 years old or something, 23 years old. If we
Mm.
sell Lacazette, I want to see a signing like that.
Just a
Um,
goal getter.
right, and a young guy that's like physical, like something different than Aubameyang. I
Who-
don't want another Aubameyang type guy. Um, and kind of to go with that, this is why I say 1.5 forwards because this is like crazy, but I would love us to see it. I would love to see Arsenal take like a flyer on a guy like Luka Jovic. Like shout out to the Eintracht
Mm.
Frankfurt boys. Um, but I want the same thing, right? I want a physical, like aerial threat, a physical guy up there because that's something Arsenal haven't been able to replace since Giroud, and that's something that we really desperately needed this season because there were so many times that our attack was so dead and it just became cross the ball and cross the ball and cross the ball, and you're crossing to Aubameyang and Lacazette type guys. Like they're not gonna be the guys to go up and win a header against the center back, especially not a bombing. Lacazette sometimes gets lucky, but he's small. He's like 5'9". I want someone like that just gives us that extra dynamic because we don't have that. And there are going to be games next season where that becomes our attack when we're just dead and we need some just miracle header out of nowhere, out of nothing goal. We need one of those guys in the team. So I don't know. I've always liked Luka Jovic, and if Madrid are desperately looking for money and they want to sell them for a little bit cheaper, send them my
Right.
way.
Right. Look, Yoish,
But
that's
the
a really interesting shout.
yeah, I mean, I would say Andre Silva, but he's going to be way too expensive. So that's why I say Luka Jovic. But yeah, I guess Eduard is the main one that I want. Otherwise, we sign Lacazette. I don't have too much beyond that because it's like Nicholas Pepe on right wing. I want him playing every single game. He's a magic. He's magic. I love Nicholas Pepe. You have Emil Smith Rowe slash Saka that can play on either wing, right? Aubameyang can play on the left side if he wants. He can play up top. You have Martinelli that can play on the left side. So you could have like Martinelli and Emil Smith Rowe and Saka all playing on the left side. You could have Pepe and Saka all playing on the right side, like who both play on the right side. You have Lacazette, Aubameyang, Balogun, Martinelli. All those guys can play in the middle
You guys have
as
a
like a
really
striker.
big assortment of forwards. Yeah. That now that I think about it, you guys either have like those two older guys or you guys have just a bunch of teenagers. But
Mm-hmm.
just still really good. Really good forwards. Another forward that I was thinking of, now that you brought up Hudson Edwards, Another French striker for Celtic, Moussa Dembele, the one that I think he plays for Marseille now. Um, but Moussa Dembele, I
Leon.
remember.
I think he plays for Leon.
Oh
Maybe.
yeah, it must be Lyon now. Well, he
Yeah.
was incredible. He's basically in the same mold as Edward. So but
Yeah.
then
I mean, I
again,
would
it's
do that.
Lyon. They're a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Just get a
That sounds
war
good.
and don't talk to them again.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I got.
So that's it for your forwards, yeah.
Edward and Luka Jovic Flyer. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a bit random. Luka Jovic was a bit random, but that's kind of a good call. Okay, so um, basically, I have five forwards because Liverpool has needed a new striker for about 2 years now. I'm not saying that Roberto Firmino needs to be replaced or he needs to be sold, but I think at this point it might serve him a little better if he drops back down to the attacking mid role versus
He
versus
needs to
being
be
our
sold.
striker. Huh?
He needs to be sold. It's
No,
time. All you
that's the
Liverpool
thing.
fans hanging on the
No,
threads,
that's the
doing
thing.
everything you can
He's
to find
not.
an argument for him.
Man, you're not even listening. I just told you he's not like I don't need him to score any more goals, right? Even though he's like the ninth Brazilian ever to reach 50 goals in the Prem. Um, what he everything else that he does is really really good. Like if we switched to a diamond midfield and had two guys up top, had Salah and Mane up top, and like we for sure knew Firmino was like an attacking midfielder, wasn't relied upon for goals or anything. I think he would. I think people would be talking a lot different about him this season. So yeah, I think I mean Firmino's also changed his position about 3 or 4 times since he came to Europe. So I think it's time to move him back to a role that he's more familiar with. Maybe not don't move him back to D mid, but I think Klopp figures out a way to use an attacking midfielder, then he might work out. Anyways, this isn't about him. So the first forward I picked, instead of having a false nine, I picked an out and out striker. Well, a forward, but an out and out striker. And that is Ivan Toney from Brentford.
Yeah.
He just got promoted with Brentford to the Premier League. I don't care. I want him now. I want him now. He scored a crap ton of goals last season. I think he scored like 30 something goals in the championship last season. But then he also scored I think he was the top scorer for the championship last season, or he was one of them, and then he was the top scorer for League One the previous season. So he was dominating League Two, League One for a couple years. Then he absolutely dominated League One year. Switched clubs and moved to Brentford, and now just pushed Brentford all the way to the Premier League in his first season there. He's big, he's tall. He's not necessarily the fastest, but he's quick. He's not like fast over open space like Mohamed Salah, but he's pretty quick. He has good feet. If I wanna describe him or like give you another player that he reminds me of, he's almost reminds me of like a Daniel Sturridge type of player. Way more flair than you would expect. Way more ability to create than you would expect. He can assist a lot better than everyone thinks. But he's just an out and out goal scorer. Like, he's one of those guys where if any part of his body gets to the ball, you know it's going in the net. He seems to be a pretty good pressing forward. Maybe not like just a hound like Firmino was, but I'm willing to offset that I'm willing to offset about 50% of his pressing ability, um, just in order to get those goals in. Man, like this guy would completely change the shape of our team. Instead of being a false nine, he would definitely be the tip of a trident and I mean he would just cause all sorts of havoc.
How
He
tall
would
is he
work.
again?
I want to say he's a little over 6 foot.
Yeah.
Um, he
I feel
would
like he's
work.
linked with a lot of clubs. Like I feel like
He's
he's
well, he's linked with a fuck ton of clubs. Just because he's been so impressive these past couple seasons. This guy's just a goal machine. Like I know Chelsea. I know I said that Chelsea have like a reputation of breaking number nines, but I think he might flourish at a club like Chelsea. Um, and I think he also gives Robertson and Trent a different a different target to aim at, or different, like he gives them a different option to aim for, because he's so tall and because he's so good in the air and because he's really good at running beyond the last man. I love those type of forwards, and Liverpool definitely thrives off of those type of forwards. So, he's really intelligent, just an all-around striker, forward, whatever. If Bayern Munich ever got their hands on him, they probably wouldn't have to worry about replacing Robert Lewandowski. I promise you. The next forward is a little bit more of the Roberto Firmino type. Um, Nabil Fekir. Liverpool was linked
Hmm.
with this guy. About 3-4 years ago, 2-3 years ago.
He's more of like an attacking mid, isn't he?
Yes, that's true. That's true. So he's much more of an attacking mid. But his ability, his skill set, basically allows him to act as though he's a false nine because he's a really accomplished shooter. He's very good at scoring goals. I don't know if you remember when he was the topic of the town over in Lyon all those few years ago. Was it Lyon? I think it was Lyon all those years ago. But he was
Yeah. Uh,
basically their entire attack by himself, and I think Liverpool only didn't buy him because he had like something wrong with his medical. But he definitely would provide like a really exciting version of a false nine slash attacking midfielder. And I know he would be classified as an attacking midfielder, but I feel as though um, he kind of fills that gray area that Roberto Firmino does. Not only does he fill the kind of the same spaces that Firmino does on the pitch, but he kind of provides um, the same qualities. Maybe not, maybe pressing aside because he is so injury prone, Fakir. But I just, just
I
a
feel like he's a lot
random
more
thought.
aggressive than a guy like
He's
Firmino.
very aggressive, So that's why I say he would bring
So
like a
to me, that
different.
I don't know, they seem very different. Not like
There, yeah. So like, how do I say this? He only really the only similarity he has with Firmino is that he occupies that same space, right? Um, but he plays a lot more. He seems a lot more of an attacking midfielder who can score striker type goals. Whereas Roberto Firmino is called a striker, but he plays way more like an attacking midfielder, especially when he's not scoring any goals. So it's kind of like the opposite. But Fakir is very, very aggressive. I'm not sure he's the biggest presser of the ball, but I know the minute he gets the ball, it'll basically be open season for Mane and Salah. And he's also really good at those final balls as well. The next forward is one who I want us to recall from loan. It's Harvey Elliott. He's a little 17, 18-year-old kid. He's just been getting loaned out the past few years by Liverpool. I think they bought him 2 years ago or so from Fulham and have just been loaning him out to better and better clubs. So last season, I'm pretty sure he was in the championship, and he did a pretty good job. He was an exciting little forward, really technical, really small. Doesn't go down easy. Needs to grow into his body a bit. He's really young and he's really small. So Harvey Elliott's kind of more of a speculation that's definitely going to occur a few years down the line if he works out. So yeah, that's just something to bring up, just because I wanted to give, I kind of wanted to, like I want to see already how he would fit in with Liverpool. Like I low key want to watch Liverpool's preseason just to see, how well Harvey Elliott fits in with the other attackers
it seems like an exciting prospect to kind of keep track of for sure.
for
But
sure.
like, where do you think he fits? If
He's a
because like
winger. He's
he's
not
essentially
necessarily
like, oh, he's more
yeah,
of a winger.
yeah. So
I was gonna
he's
say
more of like
because
a
he'd be
Jota.
like the third, maybe fourth option if you buy a guy. Like if you're
Yeah,
17 years old, that's kind of a tough one.
yeah.
How much
No,
playing time is he going to get and kind of thing. But as a
right.
winger,
So
yeah, there's definitely minutes to be had out there because I feel like you guys don't have that much depth besides Shakiri, who you want to get rid of.
and Jota. So
You'd
I
have Minamino.
and we'd have Minamino, I
Um,
think. Oh, did I say Minamino? I did say Minamino. Yeah. So I think, I mean, yeah, this one might be a little early. Maybe give Harvey Elliott like another 2 or 3 seasons to kind of develop in the championship and like lower level Premier League teams. But I definitely think Harvey Elliott becomes a viable option in the future.
I like
Hopefully,
that.
I'm not
Yeah,
wrong.
I wanna hear more about the Liverpool young
The kid.
prospects. I don't know too
Yeah.
much about. I only really know like Curtis Jones, so I'll keep my eyes.
Second to last forward. this is a shot in the dark, but I really like Thomas Lemar, the French guy who went to Atletico Madrid after the 2018 World Cup. Went
Hmm.
from Monaco over to Atleti.
That dude's been linked with
Um,
Arsenal for like 6 transfer windows in a
yep,
row. Like,
right. So he wasn't doing well at Atleti for like a year and a half, and then by the end of this season, like his coach was just raving about him. So he's always been a fast little guy, smaller, always does better centrally than he does out wide. There's a reason Tom Lamar likes
mm.
to work 10. Um, he's
'Cause he's
he
primarily
it
been
took him
playing
a
out
while.
wide for
Yes,
Atletico, right?
and he looks like garbage. So Atletico finally took a chance on him, and played him in the center. And now he's just been a completely different player. So apparently this guy is now a pressing god. Um, apparently he has a fuck ton of pressures and a whole bunch of like interceptions and stuff just from pressing up top, like not up top, but pressing from the attacking midfielder role. And yes, so like this whole group again isn't just forwards. It's nines mixed with tens because Firmino plays such a weird role that's like it's hard to define. And I think Thomas Lamar is another player that would kind of be able to emulate Firmino's role really well. I think the only difference that he has with Firmino is that he doesn't necessarily. I'll give Firmino this. He does have pretty good striker instincts once he gets into the box. Like he does know how to play at the highest guy up the field, and he does know how to like try and make runs and so on and so forth. So Tamal Lamar isn't necessarily that guy, that guy, but he's a pressing god, and his key passes apparently have been ridiculous for Atletico this season. Apparently, he has some of the best like key passes numbers in the league. And I just really like his two footedness. I think if he had a shot on him, or if he was like known as a regular goal scorer, I feel as though a lot of teams in England would be sniffing around for him. That's a fact. Okay, and then the
Yeah.
last guy, this guy isn't necessarily okay. So this guy can play a bunch of different positions. I think the deepest he plays is central midfield, and the furthest forward he can play is either as like a false nine or a full or a wide forward. But I really, really like Christopher Nkunku from RB Leipzig. He was one of
Mm.
those. He was one of that big generation of PSG players that got released, like Timothy Weah, Jonathan Ikone, all that kid Musa Diaby for Leverkusen and stuff. So Christopher
Mm.
Nkunku is
Oh, yeah.
one of the guys, right? So he came out of that generation, and it's ironic because all those other guys are either attacking midfielders or they're wide forwards, and they're known for their speed and their technical dribbling ability. Um, and I'm pretty sure Diaby was like the most highest rated one. But what's ironic is that to me, Nkunku is the best one. He might be the most
Mm.
underrated. He's definitely like the least obvious of an attacker compared to the rest of those guys that he left PSG with. But I think his progression with RB Leipzig has been impressive. I think in the next couple of years you start seeing people talking about Christopher Nkunku transferring to this or that club. I think he's going to go to a pretty big team overall. He's really smart. He's thin and he's kind of fast, but he's way stronger than he seems. Um, he works together so well with his forward line. It's not even funny. Like he know like those guys that kind of just make the pass and then admire the pass or kind of just
Mm.
follow the play a little bit too late. He's not that guy.
Right.
Pass move, pass move. If
Yeah,
one of his
movement is
forwards if one of his forwards has vacated a spot, he's going he's taking up that spot. He'll always find himself in space. He's really good on the counterattack, but he's just a good midfielder. And it's so weird to say because he can play out wide just as well as he plays in the center. But he's good. I wouldn't necessarily rely on him to be like the main goal scorer or anything like that. But I would rely on him to be a pretty good attacking midfielder because I think out of all those guys that he left the PSG academy with, I think he has the best future because he seems to be the most well-rounded right now. Like he seems to be the one that is most relied upon for his team, and he seems to be the one that kind of make things happen. So yeah, he's not really on the stat sheet a whole bunch in terms of goals and assists. But when I see this kid, I completely believe in Christopher Nkunku.